another job after those cuts is taking longer and longer.
CBS News Brief. I'm Deborah Rodriguez.
AM 1300 KGLO.
Everybody get up.
7:32 here at your hometown news station, AM 1300 KGLO. Streaming live online as well at KGLOAM.com. And we were just talking about moments ago, Troy, it is cold out, but we're glad we're talking baseball, right?
Yes, absolutely. I teach at Lincoln, which is right next to Roosevelt Field, so it looks cold on the field right now.
Troy Rood joining us, the Mason City High baseball coach, and joining us, and of course, a great honor for him as he's inducted in the Iowa High School Baseball Coaches Association's Hall of Fame back over the weekend. And Troy, first of all, congratulations, and just talk about what it means to get that honor.
Yeah, thank you. It was really a special moment when I got that call. Lee Toole's the executive director of our association. He's actually a 76 graduate of Mason City. So Lee was the one that called me in early November. So it's something I was really looking forward to. We had former players, former assistant coaches, my family all together, along with my coaching peers. So it just really made for a special evening, and definitely humbled by the fact that, you have guys like Elmer Starr from Mason City, Lowell Thompson, Lee Toole himself, who, like I said, graduate of Mason City, but coached elsewhere. So just really humbled to be selected by your peers. And we have such a great, outstanding association. And I just wanted to also make sure that I mentioned Gary Nias. Gary's always been a very big supporter of me, him and his wife, Sandy. And, I know that had a lot to do with my nomination and eventually being elected to the Hall of Fame.
Well, you mentioned some names in there, and that was going to be one of my questions to you, and I'll just ask you right now. You've always been big about, your knowledge of the history of baseball, not only at Mason City High School, like you mentioned with mentioning Gary Nias' name, here in the community in total.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something we pride ourselves on. One of the things we talked about with our coaching staff after last season is how maybe we're taking it for granted that kids know the history. For a long time, we taught the history. So we got back to, as soon as we started pitchers, catchers here at the first of the year, we started giving a history lesson each day. So some of the names I just talked about have been brought up, and other ones, some of the great players, some of the great moments. But yeah, that's a big part of it. And for me, it goes beyond just those guys. Dan Delaney, Bob Horner, Dan Mason. I would say those are, in Mason City, the three most influential people in my professional career, and also personally becoming a husband, a father, and just a community member.
Well, of course, you and I were a couple of years apart at Mason City High School. And when did you graduate again? I don't want to guess and say it wrong.
I was 91, and I remember being a lot worse at playing the baritone euphonium than you. I was not very good.
Well, that just proves we've known each other for quite a long time, I guess. But
yes,
you talk about being able to come back and coach your high school baseball team for such a long time and be successful.
Yeah, very, very special things. Through the years, my wife and I have definitely had opportunities where we could move to other areas, and just always turn those things down because of the calling of, I feel like, being here in Mason City. We've raised our kids here. We were both raised here. Just so much history in this town, and so many people I respected before. I think coaching at Roosevelt Field is the greatest place to coach. We just were nominated the State Field of the Year. There's just so much history there with state tournaments and so many other great moments I've been there. And like you said, I know the history, and I think that there's something to be said about that. I think it's just much like you at KGLO. You know the history, the stuff that happened before you, and I think that, and Tim Fleming was the same way. I just think that always adds to things, and I just feel really honored. When I always set out to, and I talked about this in my induction speech, I always set out to be a basketball coach. That's what I wanted to be. I gave the example of Happy Gilmore. He thought he was a hockey player, but we all know he was eventually being a golfer. I thought I was a basketball coach. I still love the game of basketball, and baseball kind of fell into my lap. But focusing on baseball has been the best professional decision I have made, and doing it at Mason City has made that so much more special.
Since your playing days in high school and up to now, has the game of high school baseball changed a lot? Obviously, the biggest change would be the composition of aluminum bats, I guess. But just in total, there's got to be a lot of other things that have changed in high school baseball. in your mind?
Yeah, there really has been. It's a more of a year-round thing, just like any sport. The kids are playing so much travel stuff now. And it's really, you have to be on guard as a high school coach and almost protect them from themselves, because they just want to go, go, go and get better. And, you have to look out for arm care for them. But there's some positives that too. Kids are getting exposure, especially Iowa kids are getting exposure now because of travel ball opportunities from colleges that they maybe never did before when I first started coaching. But I would say the biggest change is training. I mean, the technology, and it always kind of goes from top down. You see major leagues or colleges doing things, eventually trickles to high school and youth levels. So I would say the technology and the training techniques have really, really changed. Now, I look back at things I did 20 years ago, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. It's so much different now. And I think that's what keeps this, I'm more excited about this profession than I ever have been. And I think it's because of those things, those trends, those changes. And as a coach, you have to stay up on those things, but it keeps you young and it keeps the fire alive.
The two things that, I do want you to talk about that, maybe from the public's aspect have changed the game a lot. First of all, the pitch count being implemented here a few years ago. And I think there's still people that are pro and con on that. And, from your aspect, the pitch count, has that been a good thing to implement for high school baseball?
Without a doubt, a great thing. And I love how our advisory committees are always looking to see if the rules should be tweaked slightly. But overall, that's an outstanding rule. And that's a good point. That's something that has really changed a lot. Like my first 5 or 6 years, we'd have kids, maybe start a game, come in, come out of the game, come in and save the game later, or pitch the first game of a doubleheader and then save the second game of a doubleheader. And in hindsight, we really didn't. Maybe we were lucky we didn't have injuries that way, but certainly there could have been injuries. So I think that's a really good thing for the game. That definitely has changed that way. I think one of the special things that this is kind of off a little bit, but it's something about Iowa high school baseball is the fact that we can play 40 games. If you just go to the neighboring states, those teams are playing 18 to 25 games. The fact that we can play 40 games on beautiful summer nights, and summer baseball has not changed for so long in the state of Iowa. That really makes this thing a special thing for our kids, because it's kind of the show in town for a lot of communities in the summer.
And yeah, that's a good point, because there's always, that's been something that's been talked about for years as well. Is Iowa going to keep summer baseball? And right now, there's really been, as far as I know, no real movement to try to switch things around. Maybe a little bit of tweaking when the season begins and the season ends, but still keeping that core part of the season in the summer, in the June and July.
Yeah, and I think our coaches, they polled our coaches just a couple of years ago, and as an association, I mean, it was almost 100% that we all wanted summer baseball. If anything, just a slight tweak, like you said, maybe done around the 4th of July or slightly after. But the overwhelming amount of coaches want no changes at all. We want to play 40. We want to play in the summer. Let the colleges play in the spring, and we'll play when it's 70 to 80 degrees. And the other thing is that some people say it maybe hurt recruiting in Iowa, but these college coaches can actually come out and watch us play because they're not playing. So I think in a way, it kind of helps the high school kids in Iowa.
Talk about the bats, and I mentioned that earlier. I mean, we used to see balls being hit over that bus barn over the right field fence plenty of times through time, and then they kind of did something different with the composition of the bats. Has that really had an impact on the game at all, or is that just basically not as many home runs and maybe getting that ball a little bit more controlled coming off the bat?
My opinion is it hasn't changed the game. I look at the records that we have. A lot of our school records are definitely before the bats were changed, but we also had some really good players at that time. Like Jake Peter holds a lot of school records. Excuse me. He had the old bat, but he would have done the same things with these bats or a wood bat. I don't think it really mattered. I think obviously the safety aspect has been good for the game, but I don't see it changing how the game has been played, the power. We still have kids in batting practice. We have a couple left-handed kids right now that they're booming that ball over the bus barn. So, no, I don't think that's a huge change. I think the bats we have now, the new ones that are safer, have gotten better with each year, the technology into the bat. But then just training has gotten better. The kids are swinging it faster than ever. So, no, I don't think it's really changed the game.
Talk about conferences. Obviously, Mason City's jumped from when you and I were in school, it was the Big 8 days. And of course, some of that has carried over down to the current Iowa Alliance Conference. But the CIML, and then here to the Iowa Alliance Conference. Obviously, you've been challenged by a number of teams through the years, but also at the same time, and hopefully, Troy, we didn't lose you because I see the screen go black. But obviously, you've kept the competition pretty good. Troy did. No, he's connecting back in here, I think. You're in your hometown news station, AM 1300 KGLO, is Troy Rood, the Iowa High School Baseball Coaches Association Hall of Fame inductee for the coaches. And we will wait a couple of more moments there. There you go. You're back. Yeah, that happens once in a while. Anyway, I'll start the question. Was I talking about conferences, I guess, jumping from conference, like I say, it was Big 8 when we were in school. It's been the CIML during your tenure, and then, of course, the last few years, the Iowa Alliance Conference. But still, I know, kept a very, very competitive schedule, no matter what conference you've been in.
And that's been really important. Now that we've gone from the Alliance Conference, like last year we played Valley in the second round. You got to play those teams during the season, or you're not going to be ready for the 92-mile-an-hour left-handed kid that's probably going to be drafted, after her senior year. But one of the things I talked about on Saturday night when I was at the coaches banquet was one of the most prideful thing, if not the thing I'm most proud of in my career, is that 22 of the 25 years I've been the head coach, we've played in my opinion, the best conference the state's ever seen, the powerful CML conference. Playing Johnson in a doubleheader on Monday, then going to Dowling sometimes the next day or on Wednesday, and just doing that week after week. I thought going against the best coaches, the best players in the state, that was what it was all about. So, honestly, I do miss the CML. I miss being in that. I think our kids miss that. Now, the Alliance Conference has some very good teams. Ames High, Fort Dodge, they've been very good. Those Marshalltown coach teams, when Coach Hansen was there, were so good. But I do miss the CML. But I think we have some challenges ahead with our Alliance Conference, with Ames getting out. It's going to be interesting to see what that conference looks like 3, 4, 5 years down the road. But there's still some quality baseball programs with the Metros, Des Moines, Roosevelt. Ottumwa is always on borderline top 10 team. But I really do miss the CML conference. I think that was such a great conference.
And one or two more things here before we let you go. I know you mentioned Roosevelt Field earlier, and obviously you've wanted to make sure that that's been in its top shape and form. A lot of people in the community have wanted to make sure that, and like you mentioned, I think it's probably won some awards here recently too, right?
Yeah, it was just voted the state diamond of the year on Saturday night, and that's a big tribute to our grounds crew in our district. They care about it. Our grounds crew. It's one thing to put the time in, but it's another one to have the expertise to do it. And Corey Jenigas leads that, and he is just outstanding. You can look at our field in October, and it looks like it's ready to play. It's striped the outfield. It's just outstanding. And then our boosters through the years have done so much for the structure of the stadium with new bleachers, new lighting, just keeping things updated that way. If you drive by Roosevelt Field now, you'll see some like mural type pictures that we put up there a year ago of special moments over the last 20 years. I encourage anybody to do that. That's driving around the area. Those are really cool pictures of state tournaments and things like that. So we're constantly trying to add to it. We've hosted 2 All-Star series. We actually a few years ago put in a bid to host a state tournament, and that didn't happen. But the point is, we're always trying to host things at Roosevelt Stadium. We're always trying to improve it. I think it's one of the best ballparks our state has.
And one final thing, I know that Roosevelt's hosted the All-Star Series off and on a couple of times through the years, and maybe just talk about that and the organization of the Iowa High School Baseball Coaches Association. And I know you mentioned Gary Nias, the former Newman coach and AD, that had been a big hand in that organization. The Baseball Coaches Association, obviously a great organization.
Yeah, that's outstanding. I think it's a sport association that's envied throughout the state and the baseball community, but also all sports across Iowa. One of the unique things is that we have coaches and umpires together in the same association, and that's really a rare thing. So like our clinic that we had this past weekend, the umpires and coaches, we're going out to eat afterwards or between sessions, we're talking to each other, and then we go off to our different rooms. That makes it really a special thing. And then the other thing I like about the association is Lee Tools, the executive director, but he has a group of workers that help him with every event. And all those workers are retired, most of them Hall of Fame coaches, and their wives are umpires and their wives that are helping run these events. It just makes for like a special fraternity of people. There's just so much mutual respect in our association, and we just do so many great events. And we have a board of directors that really tries to stay with the times and try to improve things. Like I feel like our social media presence has gotten better. Our coach association had the largest clinic attendance ever this past weekend, and it just shows you how the association does a good job of promoting the sport of baseball in Iowa and how hard they work.
Troy, any final thoughts about your induction into the Hall of Fame or anything else before we let you go?
Yeah, I mean, just I guess the big thing I'd say, I've always said this, is baseball is such a great part of Mason City, whether it be Newman Catholic, Nyack, or Mason City High School. You just look at the tradition. There's been so many great players, great coaches, athletic directors, our community support. Look no further than the North Iowa Showdown every year with us in Newman, the crowd that brings. I'm very fortunate, as I think every other person that's coached at Newman or Mason City, to be part of this community, the baseball. It's not like that everywhere. And just a big tip of the cap and a thank you to the Mason City residents through the years, all of North Iowa, that just makes this such a great baseball community. And then you, media, whether you guys or the Globe Gazette or KMT, you guys have given us such great coverage through the years, and it's been so good for our kids and just for like I said, making this a baseball town. So thank you.
It's always been fun covering your squad and Newman's and everybody else around here. So, Troy, we appreciate you taking some time out this morning. Congratulations once again on your induction to the Iowa High School Baseball Coaches Association Hall of Fame. And, like I say, it's cold now, but 4 months from now, we'll be out on the baseball field.
That's right. Spring training's coming. So everybody think warm thoughts. Thank you.
Thanks again, Troy. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Have a great day.
You bet. You too. Troy Rood joining us here on your hometown news station, AM 1300 KGLO, as it's 7:49. The Iowa Almanac and sports coming your way next.